Sup fellow nerds, it is good to see you. I don't know really where to start with this review. I came into this episode with sort of middle to high expectations, the third of 3 specials for the 60th anniversary, The Giggle. Because, you know, The Star Beast was good, it had its flaws. Wild Blue Yonder was also good, but I felt it could have done a lot more, so I didn't really know what to sort of expect coming into The Giggle. Honestly, no notes. Now there are things to talk about, of course, but honestly, it's all kind of just praise. I realise I'm jumping into this like I'm jumping straight in with this, but you know, I'll level with you. People are allowed to like things, right? You know, I don't feel that I put myself across as a reviewer to say that, you know, if you disagree with me, then I think you're wrong and I'm going to berate you for that. That's not my vibe. I know that some people are very much like that. Hopefully I put across that I'm very much not like that. People are allowed to like things, right? But there are people who come up with, you know, this episode was absolutely perfect, you know, 10 out of 10, no notes. And even I look at it from an objective standpoint and think, yeah, but there was this that was just so fundamentally, like, how could you really call this like a perfect 10 out of 10 episode when this was there? This isn't how today's really gonna play out. There are things to talk about, of course. I'm not just gonna say, it was a 10, bye, thanks for watching. This episode, The Giggle, was brilliant. I genuinely do think it was one of the most solid episodes of Who in a long time. This episode did everything so right and so well. I was on the edge of my seat not only to know what was going to happen next, but also because I was anticipating that cock-up, that thing that would have immediately made me pause and go, and I look into the camera and explain why it's bad like an idiot. Yet, it didn't. This episode kept ticking over, ticking boxes, tickling our expectations, and throwing things into the mix that just worked. So let's go over them, shall we? First up, the big old political message. The Giggle is instigating worldwide I'm right because I am syndrome. It was introduced with Matey being weird about apparently owning a road, and then it was swung around to the expected dick punch to politicians themselves. Anti-intellectualism served up on a silver platter but masterfully woven into the events of the episode. That is then bolstered by the fact that 14 gets very heated about this, even before he clocks the Toymaker is involved and his demeanour changes even further. The Doctor loves humanity, this we know, so seeing their worst characteristics thrust to the surface is agonising for him. Using your intelligence to be stupid, poisoning the world. That's pretty on the nose, pretty heavy stuff, and it's always an absolute delight to see any Doctor, quite frankly, have that darkness, that hatred, that, you know, fire bubbling up to the surface, especially when it is an actor as good as David Tennant. UNIT is back in play in their own Avengers Tower, and I'm here for it, and Kate Stewart is of course back in the fray too, still operating with the Doctor's methods in mind and being a badass as we'd expect her to be. Not entirely underutilised like she has been previously. Also, her demonstration of the Giggle's effects were brutal, and I really like that they didn't hold back on it, really showing how awful humans can be. Definitely nodding towards people who, you know, go out of their way to question disabilities. Don't be that kind of asshole. Then we have Mel Bush back in for more than a glorified cameo this time, and it was amazing to see just how well the reunion between her and the Doctor was nicely set within the action of everything going on. She was at work at the end of the day. Having previous companions work at UNIT is an absolute no-brainer. Easy means and easy justification for cameos, especially if you can wangle a £120,000 salary out of it. Next, let's talk about the big bad. And casting Neil Patrick Harris as the Toymaker was just pure, unfiltered, exquisite gold. The Toymaker is a legendary foe of the Doctor's, and Neil Patrick Harris brought such an evil sparkle to the character. Think of his Count Olaf intertwined with him introducing the 2013 Tony Awards. Ah, damn, I've got to watch that opening number again now. The off-kilter accents, not really knowing whether he's coming or going, the spectacular sequence within his shop for the Doctor and Donna to get lost in, the creepy factor here is absolutely what I wanted to see in Wild Blue Yonder, Donna of course taking no shit from a bit of wood and asserting her dominance in the scene, and then we get a wonderful sequence of the Toymaker regaling the story of the Doctor's post-Donna. A really lovely bit of fan service here, but it is a shame he just omitted Jodie's companions from the mix and just jumped straight to the flux. But here I saw not Neil Patrick Harris, but I saw the Toymaker. He brings all of his talent to this role, but it at no point felt like he was going too far with him. Yes, he's a theatrical maniac, only he could pull off lip syncing to the Spice Girls and showing just how powerful he is by having Unit fire off rose petals and turning dudes into balls. But at no point did I feel that he actually fully jumped the shark. It's actually really disappointing to know that the Toymaker is supposedly done, defeated, and he's been folded up and put into his box, and he's now next to the Ark of the Covenant in the Black Archive. Obviously, Neil Patrick Harris's availability is always going to be a bit of a spanner in the works to bringing the Toymaker back, but I would love to see him again. So let's turn our attention to the big thing. 14 gets blasted in the chest by a big old laser, we get the big glow and the final line, the Allons-y from the 14th Doctor, and then it fades. So another regeneration fake out. Yet another one with David Tennant at the helm. No. The rumours and leaks were true. 14 bi-generated into 15. I say into, he more split into 15. Now we've got 2 Doctors against 1 Toymaker. The rules of the game still stand because technically he's the same person. We have a wonderfully edited game of catch and the Toymaker loses, etc. Yes, this feels a little bit anticlimactic, but it is narratively completely sound because we've had these rules of the game reinforced and reinforced and reinforced throughout this episode. The Toymaker plays by the rules. They're not just going to suddenly change up everything for the sake of some spectacle right at the end of the season. That 8th World Championship was Lewis Hamilton's. That metaphor works, actually. So now we have 2 Doctors, 14 and 15, and one is in his pants. My friend Luke made a good point, actually, that since the 15th Doctor got the 14th Doctor's pants in that split, then that means technically 14 was freeballing the whole time during that final battle with the Toymaker. A mental image I'm sure you all wanted. This revelation was surely going to be the big stickling point for a lot of people when discussing the Giggle, and looking across social media, most people were pretty damn here for it, myself included. Did this phenomenon give the Doctors the upper hand to defeat the Toymaker? In a game of catch? I don't think so. Was the reasoning behind doing this, the outcome of this event, justified narratively? I would also say yes. The 15th Doctor Harley Quinn hammers another TARDIS out of the original, and these 2 Doctors both go their separate ways. 15 takes on the reign of the character to gallivant around space and time getting into scrapes, while 14 finds a life, finds a family in the noble temples with Mad Auntie Mel alongside. This is an explicit, we are retiring this character now, along with a really quite justified reasoning behind Series 14 being a reboot and being Season 1, though for my own sanity I will be referring to it as Series 14. Does this mean David Tennant's 14th Doctor can come back one day? Yes, but I wouldn't bank on it happening soon, potentially if ever. There are tons of Whoniverse characters out there who haven't just come back, so why would David Tennant's 14th also just come back? I am, however, completely on board with the idea that this is the branch of the Doctor that ends up being the Curator. This is a Doctor in retirement, a chance, you know, to unwind, to relieve the stress of, you know, everything the Doctor has done up to that point. Revisiting an old few faces, maybe this Doctor, because there's, you know, the whole idea of if this Doctor regenerates, will he become Ncuti as well, or will it go a different direction, or what? Maybe it will go backwards. Maybe this Doctor gets the chance to be every Doctor previously, but gets to just live. And that would be quite nice. And eventually it rolls all the way back to the 4th Doctor, who becomes the Curator in the Day of the Doctor, etc. Headcanon. Beautiful. We get this happy ending for 14 and for Donna too. Plus, Wilf is alive off-screen, shooting moles, of all things. In the Whoniverse, Wilf still is, and always will, be alive, looking over his family. Now, bi-generation is a first in Doctor Who. I'm still kind of waiting on the exact clarification as to why bi-generation happened, but right now, you know, I can happily let that kind of, you know, simmer and wait until we get reasoning why, which I really hope we do, otherwise retroactively, that would be a bit annoying. But we do have some bigger fish to fry in this regard. In the commentary versions of these 60th episodes you can find on BBC iPlayer, I really do recommend watching these because it brings up loads of interesting nuggets of information, and it's just lovely seeing 3 mates sit and chat about Doctor Who. You know, also they made it. Russell says that every Doctor bi-generated, not just this one. So in his mind, every Doctor is still out there gallivanting around space and time with their own TARDIS, and we just haven't seen it. People are theorising all over the place with how this could possibly work, or perhaps we've misunderstood what Russell meant, or he misspoke with some dire canonical consequences. Going forwards in the Who canon, bi-generation has been, I would argue, pretty well covered. I think it fits quite nicely going forwards. Retroactively, I think it's quite a bit more destructive. This feels more like a, dare I say it, a Chibnall move than a Russell move. Now, just to clarify before I go into my sort of final scoring, I'm not taking this nugget of information about bi-generation and making it influence the episode's score. Because at the end of the day, this was an addendum, this was an additional bit of information to the episode that wasn't in the episode. I'm reviewing the episode as it is. This could be a completely throwaway line. Like I said, we could have completely misinterpreted it, Russell could have misspoke, who knows? It hasn't actually entered Whoniverse canon yet. So right now, this score does not involve this. I might come back and like retroactively change the score if it really does mess things up, but right now, it's not. It's a separate thing, a bubble universe. And finally, one last thing. We had a hand adored with red nail varnish picking up a golden tooth said to contain the Master. A very apparent callback to the varnish-laden hand picking up the Master's ring from his ashes in Last of the Time Lords. I've seen that. If I had a nickel, it's weird, it's happened twice, quote, all over Twitter, and they're absolutely right. Hopefully the Master doesn't immediately return, and we do have a lot of confusing information regarding their whereabouts, both generally and timeline-wise. That's perhaps saved for a future video. So overall, I am really happy with how the Giggle turned out. I genuinely, honestly don't think he put a foot wrong. If there is one thing I feel I could criticize on like a wider plane, it would be that I almost wish that this Toymaker story, the Giggle sort of in and of itself, was actually spread across 3 parts rather than being the third of 3 parts for these 60th specials. Part 1 is the Doctor getting his head around what's going on and reintroducing the character, Part 2 being the second game in the weird shop and running over the Doctor's past post-Donna, and Part 3 being the third game, the showdown at Eunice, etc, etc. And that's just wishful thinking, that's not like an actual tangible negative. The jokes all landed, the music was incredible, the pacing was absolutely spot on, so in my opinion, for the first time here on my YouTube channel in Reviewing Who, this episode is a 10. As said, there are things in the wider periphery of the Whoniverse that might come back to bite us, but right now, 10. But now we can get ready to annoy our families to tell them to shut the hell up, because Doctor Who's back on Christmas Day. A Christmas tradition reinstated. I am so excited. Ncuti's Doctor is already so charming and charismatic, ready to take on the universe in his own way, and I'm really excited to see how the Church on Ruby Road and the subsequent Season 1, or Series 14 for me, is going to play out. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the Giggle, and of course, please don't go being a twat about your own opinions, but please do let me know below. I do love reading the comments. But until then, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at Christmas. It's going to be, just as an addendum, my review for The Church on Ruby Road will come a few days after Christmas because, you know, it's Christmas, I'll be with family on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, so expect my review on the 27th, I would say. Follow me on Twitter as well, at PickupChangeToe. Then you'll get kind of ideas as to when things are coming out, but it's going to be a few days after the episode. It won't be as quick of a turnaround as I do for these ones, so just bear that in mind. But until then, take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful few weeks leading up to Christmas. I'll see you then.